And with Nikki Haley now joining the presidential race, one former Trump official thinks she's running for the VP spot instead and is questioning her motives. Joining me now is that official, John Bolton, former Trump National Security Advisor and former UN ambassador under George W. Bush. We're not doing age checks here, Mr. Bolton, but you were the same age as Donald Trump, I think. Nor are we doing any kind of tests.
I'm much younger, at least 2 years.
Okay. I want to ask you about the campaign. But first, let's talk about national security. Joe Scarborough just interviewed National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan for a special airing next week, marking the anniversary, the first anniversary of the war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion, of course. He made this point to Joe Scarborough about the Chinese surveillance balloons that have come into U.S. airspace that they've come before. That's why.
Chinese spy balloons had overflown our country without the knowledge of the previous administration because the radars weren't picking them up.
So your reaction, clearly we now know that there were previous incursions. They've made it clear, the administration has made it clear that there wasn't, that they didn't come up on the radar. People didn't know. They only went back recently in the last year or so and discovered it. You're getting briefed later today on this. What do you think our vulnerability is, and do you fault the administration for the way it's progressed so far?
Well, I have about 1,000 questions to ask this afternoon. I don't know how long I'm going to have in the briefing, but let me address first this question of what happened in the Trump administration. The Biden officials have now said about 5 different things about what supposedly happened, and what the one we just heard was that they weren't detected, these incursions, but they figured it out later. Now, that's different than what they've said in other iterations. I can say with confidence, I never heard of anything like this. If these were detected but not raised to an appropriate level, that's a serious problem. If they were misassessed as weather anomalies, that's a problem. If the radar didn't detect them at all, that's another issue. So, but I think what the administration is doing, unfortunately, undercuts their own credibility. This is not a partisan issue. This is a national security issue. And instead of trying to say the Trump administration missed something or not, we'll find out what the truth is one day or another. But constantly changing their story is a big mistake. Let me give you another example.
Let me just clarify, because my reporting, and I've been on this from day one, in the last couple of weeks, they made it clear to me and to our reporters here at NBC from the very beginning that it was not detected until they, in office, went back and did the forensics, and that they had missed at least one also. So they were saying that we have a problem here of what they called, what you heard the NORAD commander called the
domain gap.
The domain gap.
Look.
So that's what they were saying. That's why I think that they were not trying to fault you, but they were trying to say, none of us have been looking enough at this.
They have said different things, Andrea. The NSC spokesman said yesterday in the press briefing room that the prior administration detected them and didn't do anything, whereas we, the Biden administration, detected them and did something. I mean, you can look at the transcript. They ought to get their story straight, but their story's not straight. They've gone through a whole litany of why they allowed the Chinese balloon, object number 1, to come across Alaska, then Canada, then much of the United States without taking any action. Whereas after that, they shot down 3 other objects, including one over the Yukon territory. Now, they had said with respect to the first balloon that they were concerned about the safety on the ground, and we should be absolutely concerned about it. But there are a lot of ways to do this, and they concluded they could shoot it down over Yukon. Was it because it was, just Canadians? Look, we've got a serious problem here. The administration is selectively releasing information, perhaps declassifying it. I'm sure I'm not going to be allowed to declassify anything, so they get to make the story the way they want it. They're trying to downplay this. But let's be clear, the reaction overall of the administration has been pathetic. And the risk that the United States faces, it's reputational risk, the risk of intelligence gathering, the risk of the Chinese assessing our very air defenses and alertness is a very serious issue, and I think it's going to continue to be a serious issue.
And let's turn to Nikki Haley. Why do you think she's running to be, I mean, you told Kristen Welker, you think she's running to be vice president. Why do you think that?
Well, I don't think there's a serious case for her candidacy. I think it's a very difficult race for her to run because of the things she said in the past about Donald Trump. She said expressly, "I'm not going to run if he's a candidate." Her rationale for running at this point is things have changed. Well, things always change, but I think this inconsistency is something that's exploitable by Trump on the one hand and by her opponents on the other. And I don't think there's a convincing case. I certainly listened to the announcement today and the several videos she put out, one the day before and one last week. And I don't see what that substantive case is.
You've quoted Mike Pompeo as saying that she is light as a feather. Would you be saying that about a man?
Let's compare her with another woman. In the video trailer that she put out last week, foreshadowing the announcement this week, she opened up with quotations from Jeane Kirkpatrick. Now, Jeane Kirkpatrick, obviously another former UN ambassador. In the 1980s, I would say Jeane was America's Margaret Thatcher. And a phenomenal person. So the idea that Nikki is trying to associate herself with Jeane Kirkpatrick, I think, is a little presumptuous. I mean, I'll update Lloyd Benson's famous comment. I knew Jeane Kirkpatrick, and Nikki Haley is no Jeane Kirkpatrick.
Well, I knew Jeane Kirkpatrick also, but Nikki Haley is running as a former governor or as someone who's been elected, who's considered and faced some tough issues in South Carolina, as well as being UN ambassador. Just wondering whether you're judging her on in a different way based on gender.
Well, no, of course not. Let's compare it again to Jeane Kirkpatrick on the most important qualification, intellectual ability. Comparing Kirkpatrick to Haley is like comparing a destroyer to a surfboard. I mean, they both go upon the water, but that's about it.
You've said you're maybe considering a run yourself for president. Are you close to doing that?
Well, I am considering it. I had not thought initially of looking at it this year, but I was quite disturbed some months ago when President Trump said that the Constitution should be terminated so that he could be declared the winner of the 2020 election. I've filled out a lot of security applications for jobs in the federal government in my time, and there's usually a question in there that says something like, have you ever advocated the overthrow of the government of the United States? And I dutifully check no, but when you say you want to terminate the Constitution, that is what you're advocating. I was disturbed by that, but I was also disturbed by the lack of a clear rejection of that idea by people who are being talked about in the run for the presidency. And I think it's got to be clear, no conservative can say the Constitution should be terminated, period, close quote.
So you're still considering it?
Yes, I think it's a very interesting dynamic. Some people have announced basically they're not getting in. Others have not yet announced. I wouldn't do this unless I thought there was a serious chance. As I say, I did look at this in 2016, decided not to. But I think that it's extremely important that Trump not get the nomination. And I think Republicans see this overwhelmingly. I think many people are misreading the polls. I don't really think he has a chance at the nomination unless the field gets too crowded. And I would certainly not be a part of an overcrowded field if I thought that were an issue.
Ambassador John Bolton, as always, thank you very much.